All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham Rakakwadash. Double honor to the apostles, the elder bishops, the men of great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations to the elect scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, the men on the highways and the byways that are pushing out this word in truth and sincerity, and to the remnant men, women, and children of the elect. To you all, I say Shalom. My name is Ahmawan Ahyash, and I'm back with another lesson through the power and the spirit of Yahawah, Bahasham Yahawashi. And Lord willing, this lesson is edifying. I want to talk a little bit about the tariffs, Trump's tariffs, what it means. Obviously this is like the hot topic in the news right now, and amongst brothers who are teaching this word, and this is the news that we use to measure the times. This is the recent and current events that we use to measure the times, and link it up with Bible prophecy. And hey, it's exciting times. We report on this stuff and we link it to the scriptures because it's exciting times. We're looking towards the end. We're looking towards Babylon's collapse, the end of this beast system. Okay, and all of the prophecies that are coming to pass link right up with all the events that are happening link right up with Bible prophecy. Okay, and this is no different. All right, so Trump recently put some tariffs on different nations, the EU, and there's been a lot of backlash. There's a lot that could happen as a result, globally, as far as trade, and it could have a major impact on how society is functioning over the next couple of weeks, months, and it could be really like a deciding factor on things turning into an all-out war. Okay, which we are anticipating. Okay, we're anticipating these type of events and the static between these nations continuing to increase, which is going to lead to World War III. All right. It says here, this is an article from CNN.com. It says Trump's tariffs will be bad for you and you and you and you and you. Now, there was a bunch of articles that I saw on this, but I wanted to use this one because I think it's, number one, I think it's accurate. The headline, the title of the article, I think it's accurate. And the possibilities of how and who these tariffs can affect. It could be any and everybody. All right. Now, obviously, we don't know what the result of these tariffs are. Next thing you know, they could come to a trade agreement, and we won't hear much about this anymore. But if they don't, because we see brothers were talking today at camp about Donald Trump and his countenance, and how it's different from his first term, and he looks a little bit more stern, he looks a little bit more serious about the business that's at hand, and America's stance and their position globally at this time. And this just may be something where Trump is on their ass. You know what I'm saying? It just is what it is. He don't want no agreement. He don't want to have an agreement with these other nations. He wants to rule with the iron fist. He wants to America to continue to have that stronghold on the world like it's had, because he can feel it losing its grip. All right, so Trump's tariffs will be bad for you and you and you and you and you. Okay, it says, this from London, CNN. It says, the saying goes that when America sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. Pithy shorthand to describe how changes in the world's biggest economy ripple out to impact everyone else. But that adage doesn't go nearly as far enough to convey the enormity of the likely fallout from U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to impose a colossal set of new tariffs on America's trading partners. Okay, It says the U.S. isn't sneezing. The U.S. is hacking off one of its limbs. Paul Donovan, chief economist at UBS Global Wealth Management, told CNN. It says, at the start of the year, the American economy was in a very good place, quote unquote. He noted, now, if these tariffs continue as they are, it will probably rip into recession. And that, he said, will likely have a knock-on negative impact on economies around the world. Okay, so when you introduce tariffs at this rate, it could really do some damage to the economies of these different nations. All right, it says on Wednesday, Trump announced a 10% baseline tariff on all goods imports into the United States, and even higher tariffs on products from about 60 economies. The harder hit trading partners include China and the European Union, which face new duties of 34% and 20% respectively. But America is harming itself as much as, if not more than, other countries with its latest tariffs, analysts say. All right, so we are witnessing these things play out in real time. We are looking towards prophecy speeding up. When I say speeding up, I just mean just in terms of we those of us, man, who are in this faith, man, we really, when I say speeding up, I mean we just hastening, man. We hastening the day of the Lord. We hastening this man's kingdom falling. And we just want this thing to pop off. All right. Elder Apostle Tahar today at the end of camp, he said that, these different nations are speaking about how, we could be fully digital in October of this year. All right. Meaning digital payments. Okay, a cashless society with all digital payments, this advanced technology, CBDCs, okay, blockchain technology, all of these different new forms of how society is going to function, especially economically. Man, we just hastening it. Okay, so when I say speed, I mean we are just hastening the day that this man comes with his great wrath, his new world order system, so the Lord can come disrupt this man's plans. Okay. Real quick, it says, but America is harming itself as much as, if not more than, other economies with its latest tariffs, analysts say. It says a recession in America? ? If Trump keeps in place the tariffs announced Wednesday. Recession is a likely outcome for both the U.S. and the world this year, J.P. Morgan said on Thursday. It said the tariffs will cause prices in America to surge too, adding close to 2% to the consumer price index in 2025, according to the bank. Yeah, because if these tariffs come in, anytime you hit nations and businesses with tariffs or extra taxes that they have to pay, it's going to affect the consumer, because these businesses, these countries now have to drive up their price in order to make their money off their goods. All right, so the consumer is really the one that's going to suffer, which could end up in a collapse of society. It could end up in a recession. All right, but those of us here at Great Millstone, we are looking for a recession to happen. We're looking for all hell to break loose so that Esau can bring down this society and raise up the new one that he has planned. All right, we see this man starting to set up the idea of his smart cities and all of these different systems being put into place that would support a fully digitized digital payment system, which is Esau's goal, the micro C hit. We say it all the time. All right. All roads lead to the micro C hit. Okay. And that ain't going to change. So it says a recession in America if Trump keeps, I read that. Let me go real quick to, I want to touch on recession. I Googled the definition. It says, what is a recession? It says a recession is a period of significant and widespread decline in economy activity. Okay, yeah, because if the prices are too high, people ain't going to be just so willing to buy, right? In a recession, prices are going to be high. The value of the dollar is continuing to drop. People aren't going to want to, that economic activity will slow down significantly in a recession. Okay, it says typically lasting longer than a few months, characterized by a drop in GDP, which is gross domestic product, employment, and consumer spending. It says here's a detailed explanation. Definition: recession is a business cycle contraction, meaning a period of economic downturn or decline. So we would be experiencing a time of economic downturn and decline. All right. If they don't come to if the United States and these different nations don't come to a trade agreement, okay. If this thing plays out and these nations just continue to just buck up and say, "Nah, we're not going to do it," then this could lead to something very, very, very spicy and hot and heated. Okay. It says here, key characteristics of a recession. It says declining economic activity. Recessions are marked by a decline in overall economic output, including GDP, industrial production, and business activity. It says increased unemployment. Another one is reduced consumer spending. I'm not going to read the definition of all of these, but reduced consumer spending. You should all know what that means. All right, because the consumer's not going to be willing to spend on these products that are so expensive. One the elder Ahmawan Gabar, he mentioned that I can't, man. If a loaf of bread is, $20, $30, ain't nobody going to try to work for that kind of money. We're in some very serious times, man. When you ponder and you think about, you meditate on it, so we on some real heavy, serious times, man. And we're looking for this man's economy to collapse, honestly. It says deteriorating stock market. We've seen the stock market. I believe the brother Kal Halal said today at camp that the stock market, I can't remember the term that he used, but there was, I think, $2 or $12 trillion that was, I'm not sure if it was necessarily moved or lost in the stock market, but the stock market took a huge hit in these past couple of days, especially after DJ Trump, he came and he announced those tariffs. You know what I'm saying? So we could be looking at that economic downturn, decline in the stock market, unemployment, high levels of unemployment, people losing their jobs because employers ain't gonna be able to pay them. They're gonna try to get as much done with as less possible employees. You know what I mean? That's how that's gonna work. It says higher borrowing costs. Both consumers and businesses may face higher borrowing costs during a recession. All right, that's what a recession looks like, and it's gonna look even worse than this, right? Because a recession will turn into what? A depression. And when a depression happens, guess what? Let me read this. We brought us out of camp today. 2nd Ezra 16:21. It says, "Behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon the earth." And that's what we're looking at in the current state. People are able to go to the grocery stores, afford bread, everything they need to eat and survive and provide their families. You can go to a restaurant. You can get fast food. The ability to eat and not necessarily have to share is there. So victuals shall be so good cheap that they think themselves to be in good case. So in this current position, you're going to think you straight. You're going to think you in a good case. You got a couple of dollars you can spend. You can take your lady to a restaurant, take the kids out to eat. You can do those, think you in a good case. You go on a break before you go to work, get your breakfast every morning, get lunch, got food, got a freezer full of food, frozen meats. You know what I'm saying? You think you in a good case. It says, "Even then shall evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion." All right. For this is verse 22. "For many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy." Okay, so the great confusion that people are going to have due to, all the hell that's coming, especially when it comes to a famine, because when the when the shelves at the store get empty and there's no food coming in, the farms, whatever farms they have out here, is dried up, and ain't no money coming in, ain't no money circulating, ain't no food circulating. It's gonna be bad, man. When the famine hits, it's gonna be bad. All right, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for those evil times. Okay, we're looking for those evil times to come, so the Lord could judge all of the wicked, including 2/3 of these so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. This is going to be a part of your judgment when all hell breaks loose. All right, that's the fallout from Trump putting tariffs on everybody. Real quick, let me read this. It said China hits back with this RT News. Lock it, RT. It says China hits back at U.S. with 34% import tariffs. Okay, so soon as Trump came with this tariffs business, China came right back and was like, "Oh, let me do you one better." Okay, China hit back with 34%. Right? It says the move follows President Donald Trump's reciprocal duties on Chinese goods. He's saying reciprocal because there's taxes and tariffs that every nation that the United States pay to every nation at this point. There's tariffs and a percentage that they got us to pay. So Trump is basically saying, I'm just balancing the scales a bit. You know what I'm saying? I don't like the trade agreement we got with y'all nations. No way. Let me throw this out so we can come back to the table and figure out what we need to do. Because we ain't letting this fly. That's Trump's mentality. Okay, so it's reciprocal. It says China will impose a 34% tariff on all imports from the United States starting April 10th. Yeah, so now this is like tit for tat at this point. The United States came with their tariffs. China came with theirs. Okay. And it's like it's a chess game at this point. It says the country's finance ministry announced on Friday this decision follows U.S. President Donald Trump's announcement of a 34% levy on Chinese goods in the latest escalations of a tariff war. So, the energy is out there. The energy is basically the energy is high, is a high alert, is mental. This is a beautiful thing, man. I'm actually almost left speechless because I hope and pray this could lead to some of the bigger issues when it comes to these nations. Just in general, these nations, these nations being fed up with Esau, Edom, with Babylon the Great, and how they rule the earth, and all just the unjust and greed and filth that we see. We live in some excited times, man. I'm grateful to have this my level of understanding. It says here Beijing's announcement come as after the U.S. military for commerce condemned the U.S. tariffs, announcing them as unilaterally bullying. It says Trump on Wednesday rolled out a broad new slate of tariffs ranging from 10 to 49% of tariffs from all countries based on what the U.S. president called the principle of reciprocity. So I read this on the other article. So, just for the sake of, understanding where we are, where we're at, I just wanted to read that China actually hit back with 34% tariffs. That anything you could do, I could do better. You know what I'm saying? Now it's going to lead to a war, man. It's going to lead to more tension between these nations. And we're looking, hey man, it's just very, very beautiful times that we're in. I'm just grateful. I really am. The gratitude I have to have the eyes to see and the ears to hear what's going on in the world and what it means for me, what it means for the body, for the brotherhood, for the, we're excited, man. We're excited that this is happening. 2 Ezra 15 and verse 19, it says, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. And that's what we're looking forward to. There's going to come a time. This is 2 Ezra 6. In 22 it says, and suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown. The full storehouses shall be suddenly found empty. Shall suddenly be found empty. What if if this turns into an issue with the supply chain, right? And you can't get the goods over here. You know how much stuff United States imports into this country, right? If there's a disruption in the supply chain due to these tariffs and nobody wants to give up their position, then this could end up to a famine. This could turn into a famine. All right, it says, and suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown, and full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. This is when you visualize this, when you think about this, think about what that looks like, what that sounds like. You going to the grocery store and the shelves are empty. You kidding me? You know, that's just judgment from Yahawashi. He's putting his prophets out there. Prophecy is bound by his word, so it's all gonna happen the way it's supposed to happen. We're looking forward to that, man. We're absolutely looking forward to that. What else I had here? Let me get. Oh, I was in 2 Ezra 15. Anything else I wanted from this? No, I'm good on that. Let me get one more scripture. What is it? Ezekiel 4. I was already looking at it. I'm already in it. Okay. Ezekiel 4. And because like the elder Ahmawan Gabar was saying at our camp today, once this turns into an issue with the food, yeah, if other goods are interrupted or affected by these tariffs and we can't get certain shit, that's all fine and dandy, right? But when the food starts getting interrupted and that supply chain, when it comes to what, you know, the lack of bread, is that's when you know it's over. That's when you know shit is really about to pop off. When people don't have the ability to go out and get and provide it for their families, this is going to turn into something very, very, very different. And we're looking forward to it, man. This is Ezekiel chapter 4. In verse 16, it says, moreover, he said unto me, son of man, behold, I will break the staff of bread in Jerusalem. All right. I will break the staff of bread in Jerusalem, and they shall eat bread by weight and with care. And they shall bring water by measure and with astonishment. Let me read in the NOT. It says, then he told me, son of man, I will make food very scarce in Jerusalem. Okay. And it says, it will be weighed out with great care and eaten carefully. The water will be rationed out drop by drop, and the people will drink with dismay. So the water will be rationed out drop by drop, because it ain't going to be easy to come across at all. Food, water, the necessities, it's going to be difficult. Verse 17. It says that they may want bread and water and be astonished with one another and consume away their iniquity. Verse 17, the NLT, it says, lacking food and water, people will look at one another in terror, and they will waste away under their punishment. Okay, so people will look terrified when they don't have bread, when they don't have food in their cabinets or in their refrigerator. When shit dry up completely, all right, when shit come dry up completely. But you know, that's just the point. I think that was it. I'm trying to think. I had a scripture in my head, but I think that was it. And I think the point has been made, man. I just wanted to touch on this briefly. You know, these tariffs and what could come about. You know, when there's a lack of food and water, people will look at one another in terror. Oh, you know what? I just wanted to go back to Verse 22 in 2nd Ezra 16. We read about the victuals being so good cheap. 2nd Ezra 16:22. For many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. So if you are a 2/3, if you are a member of the 2/3 club, if the Lord ain't with you, if you're not a man of the Lord, it don't matter which stash you got, what bunker you live in. It don't care about nothing that you got going on. If the Lord got it out for you to be destroyed during these times, you're just gonna be destroyed, man. Man, just the thought of it, man. I just, that's why we praise Yahawashi for the understanding, man, for our portion of this faith. Because I wouldn't want to be in any other stead. Okay, but the lot that the Lord has me in serving him. And the scriptures talk about my, let me close out on this. This is Isaiah chapter 65, and I believe it's at verse 13. It says, Isaiah, I'll go right to the point, Isaiah 65:13. Therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahawah, by Yahawashi power, behold, my servant shall eat, but ye shall be hungry. The servants of Yahweh by Yahawashi will eat, but the rest of these 2/3 wicked jakes and all these other heathen nations, they gonna be thirsty. They gonna be scrapping and fighting and clawing and killing of each other for a loaf of bread. All right, it says, behold, my servant shall eat, but ye shall be hungry. The servants of Yahweh by Yahawashi will eat. All right. Behold, my servants will drink, but ye shall be thirsty. Behold, my servants shall rejoice, but ye shall be ashamed. Amen. The end is near. The servants of Yahweh Shai will be taken care of, will be watched over, will be protected. There will be that hedge of protection over the elect. And that's what we hasten. That's what we look forward to. So I'm going to end it there. I hope you were edified. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Makakwadash. Double honor to the apostles and the elders bishops, the great Millstone who were well. Peace and salutation to the elect. Shalom.